Welcome to the Ultimate AI-300 Exam Masterclass. I've earned 30 plus certifications, and I'm here to guide you to success on your exam. This PDF in the description is your shortcut. Use these strategies wisely and crack your exam in one go. Revise this PDF 2 to 3 times, and you'll feel the difference in your confidence. Let's jump straight into the most important questions for your success. Question 1. You manage an Azure machine learning workspace. You develop a machine learning model. You must deploy the model to use a low-priority VM with a pricing discount. You need to deploy the model. Which compute target should you use? A. Azure Container Instances ACI. B. Azure Machine Learning Compute Clusters. C. Local deployment. D. Azure Kubernetes Service AKS. Correct answer B. Azure Machine Learning Compute Clusters. Explanation: Azure ML Compute Clusters support low-priority, SPOT, VMs for cost savings. They are designed for scalable workloads and discounted compute usage. Question 2. A team manages an Azure Machine Learning workspace where they deploy models to online endpoints. The team needs to introduce a new version of a model to production without disrupting existing users. The team must validate the new version before full rollout. You need to reduce risk during deployment. What should you do? A. Deploy the model to a batch endpoint. B. Split traffic between deployments. C. Replace the existing endpoint. D. Route all traffic to the new deployment. Correct answer B. Split traffic between deployments. Explanation: Traffic splitting allows gradual rollout and testing of the new model version. It minimizes risk by keeping part of traffic on the stable version. Question 3. You have a deployment of an Azure OpenAI service-based model. You plan to fine-tune the model. You need to prepare a file that contains training data. Which file format should you use? A. CSV. B. TSV. C. SONL. D. JSON. Correct answer C. SONL. Explanation: SONL, JSON lines, is the required format for fine-tuning OpenAI models. Each line represents a structured training example. Question 4. You have a deployment of an Azure OpenAI service-based model. You plan to fine-tune the model. You need to prepare a file that contains training data for multi-turn chat. Which file encoding method should you use? A. ISO 8859-1. B. UTF-16. C. UTF-8. D. ASCII. Correct answer C. UTF-8. Explanation: UTF-8 encoding is required for compatibility with OpenAI training pipelines. It supports all characters and ensures consistent processing. Question 5. You are fine-tuning a base language model to analyze customer feedback. You label examples of support tickets. You must improve classification accuracy by configuring and fine-tuning the base model in Microsoft Foundry. You need to configure and run fine-tuning. What should you do first? A. Use prompt flow to generate multiple prompt templates for evaluation. B. Deploy the base model to an online endpoint before starting fine-tuning. C. Enable tracing for all inference calls in the evaluation pipeline. D. Format the dataset as a SOMA file with prompt completion pairs and upload the file. Correct answer C. Enable tracing for all inference calls in the evaluation pipeline. Explanation: Tracing helps monitor and evaluate model behavior before fine-tuning. It ensures better insights into performance improvements. Question 6. A team is working in Microsoft Foundry to test and compare large language model, LLM, prompt variants in a development environment. The team requires consistent inputs to evaluate prompt variants without relying on live user traffic. You need to create a controlled evaluation of input data. Which action should you perform first? A. Generate synthetic interaction data. B. Configure content filters. C. Apply a block list. D. Enable observability metrics. Correct answer A. Generate synthetic interaction data. Explanation: synthetic data ensures consistent and repeatable testing conditions. It removes variability from real user inputs. Question 7. An organization maintains separate Azure machine learning workspaces for development and production. Both environments must use the same validated assets without duplicating them. Assets must be shared across workspaces while maintaining centralized governance and version control. You need to enable reuse of assets across workspaces without copying them. What should you do? A. Enable workspace-level Git integration and sync assets between repositories. B. Publish the asset as a pipeline component. C. Create a shared Azure machine learning environment that includes the asset. D. Publish the asset to an Azure machine learning registry. Correct answer D. Publish the asset to an Azure machine learning registry. Explanation: Azure ML Registry allows centralized sharing of assets across workspaces. It ensures version control and governance. Question 8. An Azure Machine Learning workspace processes sensitive training data. The workspace must not be accessible from the public internet. You need to restrict network access. Which configuration should you implement? A. Azure Firewall Rules. B. Private endpoints. C. Network security groups. D. Service endpoints. Correct answer B. Private endpoints. Explanation: private endpoints restrict access to private networks only. They completely block public internet access. Question 9. A team is experimenting with traditional models for a classification workflow in Azure Machine Learning. The team requires a consistent way to manage assets that are created during experimentation. You need to ensure that artifacts can be reused and governed across projects. Which asset should you register? A. Model. B. Component. C. Environment. D. Pipeline. Correct answer A. Model. Explanation: registering models allows versioning and reuse across experiments. It ensures consistent asset management. Question 10. You create a binary classification model. You use the fairlearn package to assess model fairness. You must eliminate the need to retrain the model. You need to implement the fairlearn package. Which algorithm should you use? A. Fairlearn.reductions.exponentiated gradient. B. Fairlearn.preprocessing.correlation remover. C. Fairlearn.reductions.grid search. D. Fairlearn.postprocessing.threshold optimizer. Correct answer D. Fairlearn.postprocessing.threshold optimizer. Explanation: threshold optimizer adjusts predictions after training. It improves fairness without retraining the model. Question 11. An organization validates generative AI applications during CI/CD Microsoft Foundry. Evaluation must run automatically and block releases when quality thresholds are not met. Manual evaluation is no longer acceptable. Evaluation must use both predefined quality metrics and custom safety checks. You need to implement an automated evaluation workflow that supports both built-in and custom metrics. What should you do? A. Enable application tracing to collect runtime telemetry. B. Review evaluation results manually after deployment. C. Monitor latency metrics during model inference. D. Implement an evaluation step by using GitHub Actions. Correct answer D. Implement an evaluation step by using GitHub Actions. Explanation: GitHub Actions automates evaluation in CI/CD pipelines. It ensures releases are blocked if thresholds fail. Question 12. You manage a Microsoft Foundry project. You build a multi-turn chatbot application. You plan to filter your traces to identify issues while observing how the application is responding. The solution must not use an external knowledge base. You need to select an evaluation metric. Which built-in evaluator should you use? A. Relevance evaluator. B. Similarity evaluator. C. QA evaluator. D. Coherence evaluator. Correct answer D. Coherence evaluator. Explanation. Coherence evaluates logical flow and multi-turn conversations. It helps identify conversational issues. Question 13. A team deploys a model to a real-time endpoint in Azure Machine Learning. You deploy some updates to the endpoint. The endpoint returns errors after the new deployment is released. You need to restore the service as quickly as possible. What should you do first? A. Roll back traffic to the previous deployment. B. Delete the endpoint and immediately redeploy it. C. Change the authentication type to Azure Machine Learning token-based authentication. D. Increase the compute size. Correct answer A. Roll back traffic to the previous deployment. Explanation. Rolling back traffic restores the last stable version quickly. It minimizes downtime and impact. Question 14. A team is developing a generative AI assistant. The team is experimenting with multiple prompt variants to improve the user experience. When comparing prompt variants, the team plans to assess whether the generated responses are grammatically correct. You need to evaluate the quality of the language from the generated responses. Which evaluator should you use? A. Coherence. B. Textual similarity. C. Groundedness. D. Fluency. Correct answer D. Fluency. Explanation. Fluency measures grammatical correctness and readability. It evaluates language quality directly. Question 15. An Azure Machine Learning workspace contains multiple registered versions of a model that is used in production. An older model version must no longer be deployable, but it must remain available for compliance review and potential rollback. You need to change the state of the model version to meet the requirements. What should you do? A. Archive the training dataset for the model version. B. Delete the model version. C. Archive the model version. D. Unregister the model version. Correct answer, C. Archive the model version. Explanation. Archiving prevents deployment but keeps the model for compliance. It supports rollback if needed. Question 16. A team is deploying machine learning models to a production inference endpoint in Azure Machine Learning. The team requires a safe way to validate a new model version without disrupting existing users. You need to recommend a deployment strategy for controlled testing of a new model version. What should you configure? A. Traffic splitting between deployments. B. The model asset version in the registry. C. Deployment to a separate staging endpoint. D. An evaluation script in Azure Machine Learning. Correct answer A. Traffic splitting between deployments. Explanation. Traffic splitting allows controlled exposure to new versions. It reduces risk during testing. Question 17. A team develops multiple AI applications in Microsoft Foundry that rely on shared prompt templates. The team requires a centralized way to track, version, and reuse prompt content across projects. You need to recommend a solution to track and reuse prompt content. Which approach should you recommend? A. Store prompts as version files in a Git repository. B. Register prompts as datasets in the Azure Machine Learning workspace. C. Embed prompts directly in application configuration files. D. Persist prompts in Azure Blob Storage with folder-level organization. Correct answer A. Store prompts as versioned files in a Git repository. Explanation: Git provides version control and collaboration. It ensures consistent reuse of prompt templates. Question 18. A team plans to deploy a large foundation model in Microsoft Foundry as part of a new enterprise AI capability. Different business units across the team's organization will access the model from various internal applications. You need to deploy a foundation model by minimizing latency. Which deployment type should you use? A. Developer. B. Data Zone Batch. C. Data Zone Standard. D. Global Batch. Correct answer, C. Data Zone Standard. Explanation: Data Zone Standard provides low latency access within a region. It is optimized for real-time usage. Question 19. A team develops and manages a conversational assistant by using Microsoft Foundry. The team must be able to validate that the assistant does not produce hateful responses before the application is exposed to any users. You need to evaluate the model output for hateful responses as part of a repeatable validation process. Which evaluator should you configure first? A. Protected material. B. Groundedness. C. Indirect attacks. D. Content safety. Correct answer D. Content safety. Explanation: Content safety detects harmful or hateful outputs. It ensures responsible AI behavior. Question 20. You have a Microsoft Foundry project. You plan to use the Microsoft Foundry portal to fine-tune a base Azure OpenAI service model that can accept both text and images as input. You need to choose the suitable model. Which model should you choose? A. DaVinci 002. B. GPT-4o. C. GPT-35 Turbo. D. GPT-4. Correct answer B. GPT-4o. Explanation: GPT-4o supports multimodal inputs, text plus images. It is suitable for advanced fine-tuning scenarios. Please revise full PDF 2 to 3 times for 100% success. Check the description for the PDF download link and don't forget to subscribe to this channel for upcoming episodes. Thank you.